Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in. This is a UATV exclusive, and I'm interested to know if the audio of my voice is any better. We did some tweaking today, some experimentation, and theoretically this should be improved. I don't know whether that's the case or not. I'm told the audio and video is good. Whether it is better than usual, I don't know. We shall have to see. So as promised, today is Stupid Question Day. Stupid Question Day. Got a lot of questions on Social Galactic. Some of them are pretty stupid, I have to say. Crackled a little at the beginning. That's possible because I was late turning the mixer on. So better than usual. Okay, good. So it's improved, and now we know how we can tweak it further if we want to. So so let me turn on a few things here, just in case we need them later. There we go. Okay. It's better. I'll still pay extra for you to crank it to max. Well, we'll tweak it later. So the first question, and I'll go ahead and start with this since Den Blonde Ulven is already here. He asked the first question, did we go to the moon? Obviously, I don't know, but my opinion is that the answer, at least with regards to the Apollo missions, is no. I think it's pretty obvious that they were faked. There's no shortage of evidence that they were faked. The fact that the original recordings were all supposedly lost, all the telemetry and that sort of thing, it's just obvious nonsense. And so, while I don't know, and I would generally consider myself to be agnostic on the question, I've studied enough history to know how it's essentially impossible to know for certain what happened due to the intrinsic dishonesty of humanity. But if I had to bet one way or the other, I would say no, the US and NASA never went to the moon, and that the entire moon landing operation was faked. A second question from Den Blonde Ulven is, will BRICS financial services be accessible in the West as Western services continue to collapse? Yes, I believe so. There's way too many people from the BRICS countries resident in the West already. For example, most people don't realize this, but Alipay already has something like 5,000 or more payment centers in the United States, and that was 2 years ago. They might have 7,000 by now. The mechanics are already mostly there. It's possible that some Western countries are going to try to ban those financial services and payment systems, but as a general rule, you know, if there's one thing we do know from history, it's that government attempts to control payment methods always fail. You know, I mean, you do have the whole bad money drives out good, but the simple utility of being able to trade, you know, remember the BRICS countries are going to control most of the commodities. They control most of the grain, most of the oil. It's probably going to be impossible for the West to sanction anyone or dictate anything about payment, as we're already seeing. One interesting comment, shout out to the devs. triple concurrent streams and unauthorized is holding up fine. Nice work, devs. Yeah, so you know, we as bad as our stuff may be from time to time, you know, we're going to fix it. You know, we're going to keep working on improving it, and more improvements are coming. Miss Colchi Bear says, why won't Netanyahu remove the mask and reveal his lizard skin? Because he's dead. I don't actually know for sure that that's the case, but it was initially the more extreme conspiracy sites and less reliable sites that were talking about it. Now we're starting to see more and more sort of little hints and references and this and that, the other thing being dropped. You know, I think one of the reasons that, I think the main reason that Israel has not responded to Iran the way that they specifically claim they would is because I think that there are a lot of disagreements taking place with regards to who's going to replace Netanyahu. So, and you know, maybe he's not dead, maybe he's just injured or something, maybe who knows? Again, we don't know, we can't possibly know, but we do know to be skeptical of the official story, and the fact that he's not unambiguously out there front and center tends to cast some doubts. Azimus, he wants to know, will anyone be making internal combustion cars in 2040? Yes, almost certainly. Unless they come up with a much better way of producing electricity, a much cheaper way to do so, there's really no reason not to use internal combustion engines. Oil is not squished dinosaur juice. It is something that is produced by the natural processes of the earth. The Russians know this. I suspect that the Arabs know this by now. And so I think that it will probably continue to be fairly inexpensive to run internal combustion cars in 2040. I mean, we all know that electric cars are not only dangerous in terms of, you know, bursting into flames, but they're also absolutely filthy, and they probably require more energy over their lifetime than a internal combustion engine running on gasoline or diesel. Full Tang, he says, as a seat of the pants unplanned writer, could you speak to your editing process? Well, that's pretty easy. It's essentially non-existent. Basically, when I'm done, I'm done. I used to have some like 2 or 3 early readers, but I don't have them anymore. And just they've been busy or whatever. And you know, so I basically just get it done. We put it out in ebook. People report the typos and that sort of thing. And then we go to the hardcover, the paperback, with most of them fixed. You know, usually we'll go, I think with A Throne of Bones, we went through 10 rounds of typo fixes. And then we actually just did 2 more with some volunteers on the hardcover to apply it to make sure we could make those fixes for the leather edition. What's kind of funny is that you see people complaining about typos, even to the point that they'll put it in their review on Amazon. and then when you ask for a list, you get like 10 in a 900-page book. It's like, okay, that's not that many really, but anyhow, especially when we did the ebooks for Eternal Warriors, which were professionally produced, edited, line read, line edited, etc., by Pocket Books, we found like over 200 typos in those. So there's no such thing as a book that doesn't have typos in it. With regards to the actual editing process, there just isn't any. You know, I mean, I am an editor. I've edited other people's work. Some of my early novels were edited, but to be honest, that whole process really stopped with my second solo novel, the World in Shadow. I sent the book off to the editor, and she sent it back and said, I have no changes. So whether that was indifference or despair, I can't say, but regardless, you know, what you see is what I write. I'd probably be a much, well, I don't know much. I'm sure I'd be a better writer. I'm sure the end product would be better if I did, you know, the kind of rewrites and stuff that Haruki Murakami describes. But you know, you have to do things the way you do things, and that's just the way that I write, for better or for worse. Endgame in Ukraine. Who will pay for the trillions in property damage? NATO, Russia, Ukraine, or no one? Well, Russia will probably pay for it in most of the area where it's happened, because Russia has claimed that land. So Russia will pay for the damage in the Donetsk and in Luhansk, and you know, just like they did in Crimea. In terms of what's left to Ukraine, you know, who knows? Presumably the NATO nations, but we'll see. Arthur wants to know, estimate when the EU will break apart. Which country will start it? Well, it's already started with Brexit. You know, Great Britain leaving the European Union was the first step in the breakup. Now, the crucial breakup, I mean, the EU could stick around for decades as yet another irrelevant transnational organization that nobody pays attention to once either France or Germany leave. I think the next country to leave will probably be Hungary. Although you know, Italy was for a long time considered to be the most likely to leave, but now I think that Hungary is probably going to sooner rather than later, because they're going to want to join BRICS. You know, BRICS is what's going to finish off the EU. Robert D. Wood says, what is the term for next-gen tech hardware being more expensive and less powerful than previous hardware? And he cites a article on IGN talking about how gaming PCs are in a weird place right now. I don't know. That's really strange. You know, you wouldn't. You know, we're so used to Moore's law about how, you know, technology keeps you know, the square of the performance versus the price and all that sort of thing. But I think we're off that track already, and I think the term is inflation, because what you're really seeing there is actually an economic concept called substitution, where you know, the inflation is hidden because when you can't afford beef, you start to buy chicken. Well, you can't afford the more powerful hardware, so you're buying the less powerful hardware, but it's still costing you more. You know, in the substitution scenario, the chicken costs more than the chicken did before. It just costs less than the beef. Well, the technology that you're buying is more expensive than the same performance was before. but it's not the higher end technology that in the past you would have been buying. Are you still publishing Steve Keen's book? Yes. In fact, Steve Keen called me about 3 weeks ago, I think. He just basically called me up and said, hey, I just wanted you to know that I'm still working on the book. I still want to do it. I'm just busy with, I got hired to do this thing and I'm busy with this other thing. And I just told him, Steve, whenever you're done, get in touch and we'll do it. I said that you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to have any doubts. As a writer myself, I understand that you don't always finish a book when you think you're going to. I think you're all aware of that. So, not a concern. Some economists talk about the euro dollar. Is that a real thing? Yes. Remember, money can be created by banks giving out loans. Any bank loan denominated in dollars creates money in the money supply. There's lots of euro dollars. You can have a bank account in dollars. Anywhere in Europe, and it's not, euro dollars are not just Europe, of course. So yes, euro dollars are a real thing, and that's always been a bit of a challenge for economists to explain how they relate to the GDP, which is why they usually just kind of leave it out of the equation. James says, are there still plans to do more with Psychosonic or music in the same style? Well, funny you should ask that. Here we can play something. This is actually, I think I might have played this once before, but this is a AI remake. It's not so much a remake as I added verses and stuff, but this is a remake of Psychosonic's Cosmic Trigger, and let's go ahead and fire it up now. See if it works. Okay, that does not work, so let's try this. For some reason, the MP3s sometimes don't work on this. But not to fear. I was prepared for this possibility because there isn't any rhyme or reason to it. So this one should work.
Cosmic trigger, you got to cosmic trigger. Take a look at this man's face. Tell me, do you see the sun? There's a lemon drop about to fall, and it's scaring everyone. Don't come inside, don't come inside, 'cause Cinderella's can't decide. Try the red spot on the forehead. Vintage mind waste suicide. Cosmic trigger, you've got to cosmic trigger. Put your hands over your eyes. Tell me, can you hear the sun? There's a shadow on the umbra, and now it's hunting everyone. Don't say her name, don't say her name. You know the Alice is to blame. Search the cosmos for the chaos. Primal brainwave, ultra flame. On the cosmic trigger, you've got to on the cosmic trigger. Deepest space. Now there's nowhere left to run. Kundalini's moving to the base, burning like a midnight sun. Don't run away, don't run away. You can fly your freak flag high today. vengeance, and she'll be back on Saturday. Pull, pull, pull on the cosmic trigger. You've got to pull, pull, pull on the cosmic trigger. Got a gun, her eyes are black, she's off the track, and she's killing everyone. Pull, pull, pull on the cosmic trigger. You've got to pull, pull, pull on the cosmic trigger. Pull, pull, pull on the cosmic trigger. Just pull, 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 pull on the cosmic trigger.
So that was a remake of the second song. I think it was, yeah, that was the second song that Paul and I ever did. Paul actually talked to me about possibly, reactivating Psychosonic and get it going again. But unfortunately, he just hasn't really been able to find the time. So anyhow, we'll see. But in the meantime, you got Booster Patrol. It's up on Spotify now. We're going to get the 10-song cover album out to the backers, plus some surprise stuff. Booster Patrol is working on some originals now. We're going to be putting some Vibe Patrol, some of this stuff up there. Midnight's World. So we're doing a lot on the music side, just having fun. Bandman, where would you put some of the main Aeodal, Arts of Dark and Light, characters in the SSH? Well, it's pretty obvious that Corvus and Magnus are both alphas. It's less clear on what Marcus is. I think that, he's definitely got some alpha to him, or he wouldn't be able to be commanding the Legion effectively. If you look at Severus, he's pretty clearly a Bravo of sorts. Bit on the ruthless side, but definitely a Bravo. Lugball, the Orc, to the extent that you could apply it to an Orc, he's pretty clearly, he's kind of interesting. He's got some Delta aspect to him. I would say Lodi is pretty Delta. One flaw in my writing is that I have a tendency not to really, I started writing this stuff long before I ever thought about the SSH, and so I have a tendency to, as one reviewer put it, I tend to write too many intelligent characters and not enough normal or even stupid characters. And I think that I also have a tendency to focus a little bit too much on the higher status. Murakami, for example, he almost completely focuses on the gamma perspective. Now, maybe that's part of the limitation of a writer, but a good writer should be able to effectively write from a perspective that is not his own. So, for me, I think the challenge would be, can I effectively write a gamma novel? A novel with a gamma protagonist. That would be an interesting challenge. Dr. J, do you subscribe to the standard Christian belief in the Trinity? No, I don't. I describe myself as a Nicene Creed Christian, which I actually am, and most people who claim to define their beliefs by the Nicene Creed do not. They actually define their beliefs by the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, which was enacted about 81 years later. There's a lot of material on this in the Cambridge Medieval History Volume 1. It goes, frankly, deeper into the actual history of it than most theology books do. However, people that try to claim that I'm an Arian or that I reject the concept of the Holy Spirit or anything are completely and utterly wrong. I absolutely believe in the existence of the Holy Spirit, but I simply do not agree and refuse to affirm and do not know that the Holy Spirit is completely 100% co-equal with God the Father. That tends to contradict a lot of what I understand from the Bible. So, and there's also, there's even interesting questions you could ask about Jesus Christ. For example, can God die? Well, if Jesus Christ is God and co-equal to the Father and he died on the cross, then the answer would have to be yes. But here's the thing, and this is, I think, very important if you want to pay any attention to anything that I ever say, is as arrogant as I may be, I am actually quite intellectually humble. I don't know. Even better, I know that you don't know either. This is that whole we see as though through a glass darkly. The idea that we can possibly comprehend all of the minutiae and the details of the nature and aspects of God as human beings is absolutely absurd. We have no more ability to understand the fullness of God than an ant has of understanding a human. I would actually argue that we have less ability to do so. And so, that's just, like I said, I affirm fully the original Nicene Creed, and I do not fully affirm the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. So that should cover it. Annie says, how much of the emphasis on the Holy Spirit was due to Protestant rejection of the saints, Mary, etc.? I have no idea. My interest in theology is pretty minimal. What I know of it happens to come from my studies of history. So, when you read, like for example, right behind me, those reddish books, that's the Cambridge Ancient History. So when I read the Cambridge Ancient History, I happened to learn a lot about various Eastern and ancient religions, because it's part of the history. Doesn't make me an expert on the theology. Bandman says, at first I thought Fortex was Gamma. No, he was not. Yet he bravely accepted his punishment. Yeah, he was not a Gamma, not at all. He was just disobedient. Gammas are not, as we all know, Gammas are not the only people who are disobedient. So, let's see. I don't need you to, people sometimes try to explain to me why they're asking things. Allow me to point out, I don't care. If I say you can ask me questions, obviously you can ask me questions. You don't need to justify them. It's literally called Stupid Question Day. If I think it's a dumb question, I'll tell you. Did the Palestinians do anything to receive the treatment enacted upon them by Israel? Mostly no. The main thing that the Palestinians did was live in the wrong, same thing that the American Indians did. They made the mistake of living on the territory that people wanted to take from them. All that stuff about, well, they don't deserve the land because they fled their homes before the Arab armies and blah, blah. That's total bullshit. It's totally false. They were driven from their homes by the Israeli forces, which weren't, at the time, wasn't really properly the army. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea that they voluntarily fled their homes because why? I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. They wanted to get out of the way of the Arab armies. I mean, that never happens. That doesn't happen. It didn't happen then. Martin van Creveld, in his who's a proud Israeli and an excellent historian, he specifically addresses that in his history of the Land of Blood and Honey, and it's not true. It's just flat out not true. Now, did they do anything to justify the ethnic cleansing of Gaza? No. I mean, more than half the casualties caused on October 10th were caused by the IDF. The whole thing was a green flag anyhow. And, it was probably a mistake by Hamas to take the invitation given by the Netanyahu regime and give Israel the excuse to engage in the ethnic cleansing that they're currently engaged in Gaza. Anyhow, but also I don't think that you can criticize Israel for its actions, but there are very, very few countries that were not conquered. There's a reason why Lombardia in northern Italy it's not named after people who are originally Italians. It's named after the Lombards who came down from the north and took it over. So I wouldn't. I think most people, especially the Germans. I mean, for crying out loud, right now we're covering the Goths invading the Rhine. Of course, the Goths were fleeing the Huns because the Huns were invading their land. I mean, this is how it's worked. Big Jack Bear says Israel is bombing military targets in Iran right now. Oh, so they did get started on that. Okay, I haven't been online for a couple hours, so I stand corrected on their lack of response. So we'll look into that when we're done with the questions. If there's anything particularly significant, please go ahead and mention it in the chat. Big Chad says, if one were to pay off an 8-figure sum of distributed mortgage debt suddenly during a banking collapse, would the money supply contraction do anything significant systematically? Only if it was specifically targeted at a significant financial institution. So I don't think that would be sufficient to do anything to the whole money supply. I mean, if you're talking about what, 6-figure, 7, you're talking about something on the order of tens of millions. No, that's not going to do anything. Cliff wants to know, what's the most useless karate move that movies overhype? Definitely the spin kick. One of the spin kick, first of all, and then the second thing would probably be any kick that involves leaping. We were taught very specifically to never ever spin or leave the ground. In fact, it's so useless that if you're fighting somebody who is properly trained, what they'll do is kick you in the back when you start to spin. I was actually ejected from a tournament as a coach because my brother spun I told my brother to, every time the guy started to spin, just kick him in the back. And the judges are like, well, he can't do that. I'm like, he's literally turning his back on him. Why can't he kick him? You know, he's supposed to just stand there and wait for him to finish the technique. Anyhow, it's just, you know, point fighting is so pointless. That's one of the many reasons I didn't enjoy it. Let's see. What do you think of Foucault's pendulum? Well, it's right behind me, up right about there. You maybe can't see it, but I love Foucault's pendulum. It's one of my favorite books. I think that it is probably Umberto Eco's best book. I will admit that it's not quite as accessible as The Name of the Rose. Your opinion on the Dune series? Well, the Dune series, I mean, Dune is probably the best, or at least one of the very best science fiction novels ever written. The series goes downhill with increasing velocity. You know, I didn't really appreciate Dune Messiah when I was younger. I appreciate it more now as a book. It's very interesting. Children of Dune is really good. God Emperor of Dune has its moments. Definitely has its moments, but is just nowhere near as good as the first three. And then the rest you can safely skip. Let's see here. As far as what tops it as a science fiction series, I mean, honestly, nothing really. You know, you could, you know, the early Foundation books are good, but that one downhill too. You know, I don't, there's just not truly great science fiction the way that there is truly great fantasy. I would say that John C. Wright's Golden Age book, his trilogy, The Golden Ecumen, is excellent. But even there, you know, the first book is head and shoulders above the others. So, science fiction's a difficult, you know, it's a difficult thing to maintain. You know. Then let's see here. What will life be like for America? Hang on, I'm getting a weird thing here. What will life be like for American expats in Russia? Very, very different. I mean, I can't say what it'll be like in Russia. I've never lived or been to Russia. But, you know, having been an expat for decades, I can assure you that it's just very, very different than living in a different country is just very, very different than you're accustomed to. You know, the language differences, the cultural differences, the small things, the big things, the food. You know, the internet makes it a lot more palatable. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I was talking to a fellow expat, and I was watching the Bucknell football game last weekend, which not very much of it because it was a terrible game, and you know, when you can't even beat an Ivy League team, you're pretty pathetic. But it was still fascinating that I could watch an American college football game that I could not have watched in the States even 10 years ago. So, does Washington have enough power and sway to turn Southeast Asian countries into another Ukraine, or are they safe? Well, I don't know if they're safe, but I don't think that any countries are planning on signing up to play Ukraine after seeing what happened to Ukraine. I mean, the game has fundamentally changed. Not just with BRICS. BRICS obviously is a major, major component of that change, but another significant thing is the fact that, you know, the myth of American military supremacy has been punctured. You know, the American military is still formidable, but it is now a major regional power. It's not the global monopower that people believed it was for a while. Which band did the Like the Wind song, and does it need a longer guitar solo? And this is apparently the most mysterious song on the internet. I'll play it for you here. I'd never heard it before. In fact, I haven't even heard the whole thing yet. So let's find out, shall we? See if this works. Okay, the voice sounds like, this sounds very 80s. It sounds like a really high quality 80s demo tape. And the voice sounds a bit like the guy from Sisters of Mercy, but he has a slight German accent. Reminds me a little bit of, some of the way he pronounces things reminds me a little bit of the lead singer of Alphaville. So that's all I can tell so far. Yeah, I would say that song definitely needs a guitar solo. Or it doesn't even have a guitar solo, so obviously it needs a guitar solo. But it's kind of interesting. I mean, it had a bit of an REM flavor to it. I mean, it sounded a bit like early REM sung by the guy from Sisters of Mercy. But anyhow, first time I've ever heard about it. It's not a bad song. Is it smart to stockpile gold? Yes. Although it's very expensive now. I mean, you know, gold is literally 10 times, worth 10 times what it was back when I first told people to start buying it. So obviously that was the correct call. But there's no reason that it shouldn't eventually go even higher, because you know, the banking system is obviously in bad shape. J-Dog wants to know, if a tree falls in the wood and Owen isn't there to call it gay, does it make a sound? Of course it does. I have never ever thought that fake Zen koan made any sense at all. We do not live in a subjective universe, and you know, the fact that the fact that physics, you know, physics does not only operate when someone's around. So things make sounds whether anyone's there to hear it or not. What's the youngest age you would start to teach a child a sport or instrument? 5. You know, I mean, here the Scuola Calcio starts at 6, and it's not unusual for kids to start playing at 5. So an instrument, maybe piano. You know, the thing you have to keep in mind though is that eventually the kid he's either going to do it, he or she is either going to do it on their own or they're not. They have to want to do it themselves, you know. So I mean, we had a drum set, you know, we had a little guitar, we had a drum set, and just no interest at all. And then, you know, one day suddenly I want to play the guitar, and you know, he became a good guitarist. So it's not really something you can effectively force, in my opinion. Let's see, here we go. We must have a Schweitzer here. Gruyere or Vacheron Fribourgeois? I'm going to say it depends upon the purpose, but in general, between those two, I would choose Gruyere. I do like Vacheron, but I would choose Gruyere. But my favorite is a small cheese that's made in the Bois, and it's called Broyard. And I think there's only like one fromagerie that makes it, and it's so good. It's like, to me, that's the best cheese just to eat by itself with wine. How does a huge portion of young people never leaving the house affect the SSH? I think that it probably tends to reduce their sociosexual status. Are they all omegas? No. Most men are not omegas. You know, there's a big difference between not being a social winner and being an otaku. You know, omegas are really, really inept on a level that most guys can't even fathom. Do you have any thoughts on mega alphas like Alexander or Caesar, whose bravos founded rules empires? None whatsoever. I don't. I generally try to avoid putting too much weight on the history stuff, because there's so many panegyrics, and the information is so often contradictory that I think it's a mistake to try to put too much weight on those, especially those from the ancients. You know, when you can actually read Wellington's letters, when you can actually read Napoleon's memoirs, it's a lot easier to reach an informed conclusion. How do you discipline young children for lying? Depends. You know, there's some, sometimes it's just hard not to laugh, and sometimes it needs really firm discipline. The important thing is to call it out every single time. Make sure you call it out every single time. Don't let them think that they're getting away with it. It's less important to punish than it is to demonstrate the inutility. You know, people don't like to be caught lying. People don't, and the other thing that's very important is to make sure that they understand the consequences of that, which is that they can't be believed. You know, if you want to see a kid really understand the concept of shame, you know, if they lie and then later they come up and they're like, you know, I did this thing, and they're all happy and proud of themselves, and you just say, well, I don't believe you. Why would I believe you? You know, if you lied about this other thing, how do I know you didn't lie about this other, you know, this new thing? You know, it's more important to get people to understand the futility of misbehavior than to just try to get them to associate some sort of pain with it, whether that's emotional or otherwise. Conciser Bear wants to know, if you could go back in time with a couple of helicopter gunships and a company of heavily armed Marines, which battle would you intervene in? Oh, that's very, very easy. I would probably show up at this last siege of Constantinople and prevent Constantinople from falling to the Turks. That's my first thought. You know, you also, as an American Indian whose tribe had a mixed record, some success, but ultimately defeated by the Europeans, I'd have to give some serious thought to some of the early Indian wars. I don't think it would have, you know, I don't think stamping out the Puritans, letting the Puritans starve would have done that much good. The Europeans were coming. But convincing the early United States to respect its treaties with the Indians would have been significant. Bilbo Swaggin suggests the Library of Alexander. Tempting, but it's not a battle. You know, the question was not what historical artifacts would you save. It's about what battle would you alter the course of history with. Any estimate on when the Cambridge History of Japan will go on sale and what the price will be? We'll probably put it on sale in the new year. I would guess around February 1st. We're specifically waiting for something. This isn't a random delay. We're specifically waiting for the completion of the Cambridge History of the Byzantine Empire because we're using the more expensive Spanish leathers. We need to see how well it works. We need to see if it's worth the additional expense or not. The price will be $1,500 for the set via subscription, roughly. I mean, this is what we're planning. And probably if somebody wants to just pay it all up front, we'll probably make it like $1,250 or something. And it will be very, very well worth it. There's only going to be 250 sets produced. And that's a hard limit. Could you briefly describe why Clown World fears Xi so heavily? Because Xi was not expected. He was not somebody who was supposed to be a player. And he's a very strongly virtuous pagan, his CIA file that they had on him when he was a college student actually talked about how much he hated corruption, and if he ever came to power, that they believed that he might, institute some kind of campaign against corruption. Well, Clown World relies upon corruption. Corruption is how Clown World maintains its power, and so she is very much dangerous to them, and he has specifically overturned their primary plans of turning the he's overturned the primary plans of having the empire that never ended, the financial empire. It was supposed to move to Beijing. That was the plan, and he completely disrupted that, and that's one of the reasons why Clown World is on the verge of collapse. A Rabbit says, gammas are incredibly bad at choosing, attracting, and keeping women. I wouldn't say incredibly bad. I would agree that they're generally less successful than the average. Are marriage and family still an unrepentant gamma's best choices? Well, I mean, I can't say. Is it going to be hard on the woman? Yes. Is it going to be hard on the kids? Yes. But if she's the type of woman marrying an unrepentant gamma, that might be the best she can do. Under what circumstances would you recommend a more monastic goal? Well, there's a contradiction in what you're suggesting there. There's an intrinsic, almost oxymoron in the scenario you're proposing. An unrepentant gamma is not going to pursue a monastic goal. I mean, one of the hallmarks of the gamma, one of the main things that the gamma has to repent for, is his habitual dishonesty. Well, if you're unrepentant about your dishonesty, and if you're still locked into your delusion bubble, you're not going to be at all interested in any sort of monastic goal. So, I mean, I think to a certain extent, the question's a bit of a category error. The best thing for a gamma to do is to get his negative characteristics and his negative behavioral patterns under control. Marriage and family is not something that all men seek. So I don't see any purpose in trying to recommend to someone something that they're going to have absolutely zero interest in. Long Game Bear asks a very stupid question. Vox, do you sometimes drink white wine? No. The only time I drink anything that could be even remotely considered white wine is when I am drinking Prosecco, champagne, or cava, which are all different ways of saying the same thing, or I will drink Cremant from Alsatia, which is kind of rosé, but it is also a bit it's also sparkly. But no, in terms of just regular white wine, I don't. Is a soft and long collapse preferable to a hard and fast collapse? I think so. It's a lot easier to prepare for, and I think it's easier to survive, and you have more time to react to things and make adjustments. Hard and fast, you just might get swept up in it with nothing you can do. Raker says, you should grow a goatee. Okay. Why don't you grow a goatee? Well, the main reason is my wife doesn't particularly want me to, as far as I know. I did grow a goatee once back when I was around probably 24. My head was shaved at the time, and I looked alarmingly like a convict of the lifer in prison style. I mean, it's kind of like the guy from Breaking Bad, only worse. And so, and the fact that I had a little Vizsla puppy who kept trying to chew on it did not make me want to keep it. So anyhow, I think I had it for like 2 days. I don't know. I don't feel like I need to hide my chin particularly. So, but if I get to that point, maybe I'll have to consider it. Do you think Israel will still exist in 5 years? Yes. What were your versus your kids' favorite books growing up? They were pretty much all the same. I mean, we introduced our kids to the junior classics. We introduced our kids to The Lord of the Rings. The only books that I would say were different that I hadn't read that they really liked were some for obvious reasons. There were the Goal books, which were very popular in Italian, and the Redwall books, which I'd never read or really even heard of when I was younger. I don't know when they were first published. And then, of course, the Harry Potter books, which, you know, although in fairness, I don't think my kids were, I mean, they liked them, but they weren't crazy about them. They were much more into Tolkien. So they have better taste than most. Oh, here's an easy one. Which is better, prosciutto di Parma or pata negra? It's not even close. Pata negra is much, much better. You can't even compare the two. I think that I'd probably take your average Virginia honey ham over prosciutto Parma. So, when will there be a community effort to support the Archaven Castalia equivalent of a video game engine and Steam-like game platform? Well, we'd have to do a game first. I don't think there'd be any point in doing an engine because there's a lot of good open source engines and stuff out there. Although I understand that one of the best ones got a bit converged or is getting forked or something. But we're working on, we've got a very, very small team working on a game right now, and we're just focused on the gameplay. Totally focused on the gameplay, not worrying about the graphics, not worrying about the art being great. Just totally focus on the gameplay. When we're ready, we'll let people check it out, we'll let people play it, and we'll, you know, if there's enough interest and if we've done a good enough job, then we'll see. You know, the community has been absolutely unbelievable in how it has supported so many of our projects. Archaven, Castalia, Castalia Library, unauthorized. You know, unauthorized, obviously we're still building back up. We're still, honestly, we're still less than 50% of where we were 18 months ago. You know, we'd really like to get everybody back. If we could get everybody back subscribing who was subscribing before, we'd be in great shape. As it is, we're okay, but not where we'd like to be. But the thing is that the community's been so great about supporting these projects. I mean, Hypergamouse is at 80,000. I need to come up with a stretch goal 4, you know, that people are interested in. By the way, if anyone's got any ideas for a stretch goal for Hypergamouse, let me know. But the point is that the community has been absolutely phenomenal. And I don't want to, especially in these economic times, I don't want to ask people to support things or contribute to things or help make things happen unless they are substantial and significant. Gaming is tough. You know, I know every aspect of game development. I know how tough it is. I know how expensive it is. You know, I mean, look at what, you know, the challenges that Mark Kern is dealing with, and he's had more success than I've ever had, you know, so it's tough. But so that's why I think the best thing to do is let's see what we can do. Let's see how good it is. Let's see what level of interest there is. And if there's enough interest to bring in a lot of people from outside the community, then I think we can look into it. No, you need to go lie down. You need to go lie down. I don't want to take you outside right now. So we'll I may have to go here in a few minutes. We'll see how she does. Would you relocate your family to a BRICS nation? Not at the moment. Let's see. When will second edition Landmark Thucydides be offered? Are we thinking months or years? Probably more like years. Arts of War is months. How about a figurine for Hypergamos? No, definitely not. So tell you what, I got to take her out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up another, I'll just fire up another song. This you've probably all heard this one, maybe, but this will give me time. The princess is demanding to be taken out. So let me see. I'll fire this up for you. We'll see how we go. Yeah. Okay. Come here. Come here. I'll take you out. Let's see. All right. Hopefully this will work. Son of a gun. All right. Hang on a second. I'm going to turn the camera off and I will be back. We'll fire up Cosmic Trigger again for those who didn't hear it, and leave it at that. I'll be back in just a few.
Take a look at this man's face. Tell me, do you see the sun? There's a lemon drop about to fall, and it's scaring everyone. Don't come inside, don't come inside, 'cause Cinderella's can't decide. Try the red spot on the forehead, vintage mind waste suicide. Cosmic trigger, you've got to Cosmic trigger. Put your hands over your eyes. Tell me, can you hear the sun? There's a shadow on your umbra, and now it's hunting everyone. Don't say her name, don't say her name. You know the heiress is to blame. Search the cosmos for the chaos. Primal brainwave, ultra flame. On the cosmic trigger, you've got to on the cosmic trigger. Throw a kiss to deepest space. Now there's nowhere left to run. Kundalini's moving to the base.
All right, we're back. Hope that didn't interrupt your enjoyment of the song too much, but you'd already heard it, so, you know, who cares? Hypergamos would love stickers for kiddos' water bottles. New cartoon. Yeah, I don't think we're going to start a whole new cartoon series, but anyhow, we'll see. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on Robert Moses, if any? No, I don't have any I don't have any thoughts on Robert Moses. I have no idea who that is. As one of the few countries to be an ally of both the East and the West, do you believe that Turkey will become the new Switzerland or bridge to both sides in the future? Well, I wouldn't say that I believe they will, but clearly they have the possibility of doing that. I mean, I wish the Swiss would have focused on that. You know, if I'd been running the government, that's what you know, that would have been the focus from the beginning. But you know, Switzerland's one possibility. Singapore is an obvious possibility, but you know, Turkey certainly appears to be a possibility. Unreal or Unity? Well, we always used Unity back when we were doing some development, but I don't know what happened that caused everybody to drop it. I'm assuming that there's some onerous legal clauses or something. So I haven't really been paying much attention to engine related stuff for the past 5 years or so. So Epic is a great company. You know, I knew them back before they released their first stuff. You know, Mark Ryan and those guys are sharp, and they certainly earned their success. They did lie a little bit at the beginning, which was very annoying to us. But you know, people were like, well, they had the opportunity to bundle either with Unreal or with Rebel Moon Rising, and they chose Unreal, even though Unreal could never do what they said it would do, but they were showing them the beautiful art at the high resolution that they couldn't actually deliver, and so it kind of interfered with our bundling opportunities because ours actually worked, right? That being said, I made a major error with Rebel Moon Revolution. GT Interactive offered us the Unreal Engine to use for basically free. We should have just used it and built our game on that, but at the time we were focused on building our own engine, which you've seen in Rebel Moon Revolution. The engine was good. We had two of the best AI programmers in the industry, but you know, the collapse of GT took it all down. So, you know, maybe we would have been better off if we'd used the Revolution engine or the Unreal Engine instead. Maybe it would have not made any difference at all. But, you know, knowing what I know now, I would have focused on the AI and just, you know, not wasted any resources on engine development. Why is the Ukrainian war so doggone important to Clown World? Because that's how they've been financing Cloud World for the last couple of years. All that military aid is just basically being laundered, or most of it. But the main reason is that they need to preserve the illusion of U.S. military supremacy, and obviously Russia has completely exposed it. Not only that, but it's also demonstrated the lack of economic power. So basically, Clown World tried to bluff Russia, and Putin called their bluff. You know, and now the inevitable is just playing out. What's the hardest part of starting a business, especially one that involves light industry? Finding the capital. That's why there's a whole industry of people running around begging for money, telling people how to get money, promising people money under all these restrictions. That's the hardest part. You know, if you have the basic money, then you know, then you can make it happen. I mean, then you've got other problems, but the biggest, hardest part is making sure that you have enough money to make it work. That's why the community has been so important to what we did with Castalia Library. You guys made it possible for us to produce the books originally. And then And then with the bindery, you guys made that possible too. You know? So, do you think Trump can remove the rhinos and woke activists? Yes, if he decides to. How would you wargame an effective purge of the demonic forces in the government and military? It's pretty easy. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of effective purges across history. I mean, all he has to do is change the law. And, you know, it used to be that when a new president got elected, all of the civil service was replaced. He could do that easily. You know, stroke of the pen, law of the land type thing. Is he going to? Almost certainly not. If you had a daughter, would you recommend she attend college? No. College, especially in the United States, is observably very bad for young women. What is stopping the fraud machine from just printing an extra 100 million ballots this time? Because nobody believes them. They need to maintain some kind of credibility. Will Russia take Kiev before January 20th? I think that, no, I don't think they will. I don't think they need to. Have you read the Kurgan's book, The Face on Mars? No, I have not. Will Russia take Transnistria? Is that in Moldova? I would have said no before the election fraud. I think they will if necessary, but I don't think it's like, I don't think they're planning to, unless Moldova does something really stupid, like, you know, join NATO. Do you think you'll get into game design, either tabletop RPGs or computer games? I'm already involved in game design, of both. I have to finish. We just finished, John Delarose just finished the Alt Hero Covert novel, which we'll be getting out before Christmas, sending out to the backers. I still need to finish the RPG, and I've already mentioned that we're working on a computer game program. Does Murakami know you exist? I don't believe so. I don't know why he would. What's your favorite meal food type? My ideal meal is pata negra and some cheese washed down with a good Spanish red, followed by some dark chocolate. That's pretty much my diet. Are you a fan of John Mouse? No. Have you read The Zero Stone by Andre Norton? I've read a number of books by Andre Norton. I don't recall reading that one specifically, but I might have. And that brings us to the end of Stupid Question Day. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned. I hope you've laughed. And I will see you at the next Darkstream. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream on Unauthorized.